Are you a bright and early morning bird or more of a night owl? Well, your natural body clock will have a significant impact on your ability to train and whether you're best suited to running in the morning or the evening. And there are pros and cons to running at either end of the day. Admittedly, I sit firmly at one end, but I'm going to put that to one side today and give you guys an open argument as I compare the two. Good morning. Now, no points for guessing which end of the day I function best, but I've always aspired to be an early bird, and I still do. In actual fact, I manage to do most of my runs in the morning, and I'll explain why later on. But first, please just give me a moment to finish my coffee and wake up a little bit. Stepping out of the door at this time of year certainly wakes you up, although I think the coffee has maybe played a little part too. I think it's time to address all of the wonderful reasons for running in the morning. And I've kind of already covered one. It just gets you going, it wakes you up and it gets your body moving, and surely that's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? And if you think about it, you have just had the best rest you're going to get in a 24-hour period. You've been asleep, so your legs are rested. I'd like to say they're fresh, but obviously that does depend on what you did the night before, and also to a certain extent what you ate and drank the night before. Well, it sounds like we're moving on to nutrition, and there are some serious pros and cons to running in the morning. If you want to incorporate fasted training, then your early morning run is perfect for this because you can save time and you don't need to worry about having breakfast. So you can just get up and head out the door. It does come with a caveat though, and I have to admit, I do a lot of fasted running sessions, but these are all my super easy and relatively short runs in the morning. If you do want to do something that's going to be quite a bit harder or longer, then you're going to need to think about fueling, because if you're doing it fasted, you'll be putting too much stress on your body and your hormonal system. And there comes one of the cons or challenges of running early in the morning: when to eat and what. Well, you're going to need to have some amount of fuel if you're planning on doing something that's going to be a little bit intense or longer, like I've mentioned, and you need to work out what works for you. So whether that's a banana, some toast, or basically anything that suits your taste buds and your stomach. And you'll have to work backwards from that to see how long your body needs to digest and kind of get moving, if you know what I mean. So it's probably going to mean you'll have to set your alarm earlier, which in my mind is never a good thing. And you'll also need to consider what you've eaten the night before. It's probably not the best idea to have a late night curry if you know you've got a hard early morning run to do. I personally don't like that feeling of having a hard run that's coming up, hanging over me all day. I might start off being really keen to nail it, but by the time it gets to home time, my enthusiasm has quite often started to dwindle. However, I do know that I'll be able to nail that session far better in the evening than I would have done in the morning. And there's no right or wrong as to what type of session you should do at what end of the day, but being brought up running with a running club, I seem to be naturally programmed to do my hard sessions in the evening. And there are a few benefits. Your mind and body is most certainly going to be awake. You've probably had a few cups of coffee throughout the day that's going to help with your alertness, and hopefully you will have had 2 balanced meals at least to fuel you. It's usually far easier to run in company in the evening. As I said, it's where most clubs meet up, and if you want to go for a run with friends or a group after work, it's kind of normally easy. There's no strict deadline of when you've got to finish by. And with that as well, you can determine what type of session you do. You're not going to be really tight for time, so you can probably do a little bit more. And if you're feeling good, you can even extend that run. And you might even have time or the inclination to do a little bit more of a warm down or stretching than maybe you would in the morning. There is something that's just more sociable about the evening run, and as a result, I find it's much easier to get more out of yourself, or maybe that's just me showing my bias. However, you do need to be careful not to procrastinate, because it's really easy to put it off. There's no strict deadline when you finish work in the evening, and if you go home, whatever you do, avoid sitting on the sofa, because once you've done that, it's usually too late. Well, it is for me anyway. And then you need to think about the seasons to a certain extent of when you've got daylight hours. For example, here in the UK in the winter, we tend to get a little bit more daylight before work. So it's quite nice to actually see some kind of sunshine before sitting in the office for 8 hours. But if you maybe live somewhere that's really hot, you might only have the choice of running in the morning because later in the day, it would just be too scorching. As you can tell, I am a fan of both types of running. I love that smug feeling of getting out the door and doing something before you've even had your breakfast, but then I know I can nail a tough session far better in the evening. I would love to know where you sit on the scale. Are you one of those bright early morning birds who can do any type of run before, or do you take a little while to get going and you prefer the evening? Do let me know in the comments section below. Give us a like if you've enjoyed the video, and remember, you can follow us on our social media channels. You can also subscribe to YouTube here.